Hello everyone and welcome to 4 Kilobyte Shorts Let's Learn with Kerbal Space Program version 0.23. Now before we get too deep into this, I want to give you guys a little bit of a heads up. There are a few feature changes, there are a few additional features that were added, and there are a couple of additional parts that were added to the game. I will not be covering all of it in this particular Let's Learn. This Let's Learn is going to be very specific, very specific to the changes in the science program and how science in career mode is acquired and the limitations of that acquisition. There are a few changes that were put in to make that a little bit better, and it's caused some confusion, and some people are like, how does this work? I don't understand what this is, what this does, what's going on. And so I'm going to put together, of course, a Let's Learn for you guys to show you exactly how this stuff works. As I said, there are a few additional parts. We will be going over one of those parts. I will not be going over some of the other things that have been added to the games because there are other things, but they don't have to deal specifically with science. And so for that particular reason, we're going to go into our Let's Learn thing here, and I do apologize. The load times have been significantly reduced, especially when you're not using any mods, but you do still have to deal with a few load screens here and there. Now I have set up a couple of spaceships out here in space to show some stuff. We're going to go to the Labtastic first. Now I put the Labtastic on the moon because that will be where it shows us a few things here. The rocket I have built contains two of the, well, actually the two parts that are new to the game. One is a new type of engine, which is this engine down here. This is called the Rapier engine, R-A-P-I-E-R, which is an acronym. And basically the engine will work in both as an air induction engine, like a jet engine, and then it will automatically switch over to a rocket engine as you go up into outer space and you have no more oxygen to deal with. So because of that, it's a new engine. It works. It's really nifty. Check it out when you guys are playing the game, but it's not something I'm going over at this moment. Now, what I am going over, though, is this guy right here, this big guy right here, the Mobile Processing Lab, the MPLLG2. Now, a big thing about 0.23 is you cannot spam science, and what that means is if you guys played 0.22, you know for a fact that you cannot, or that you can go through and you right-click and you say, okay, do like a crew report, and then you send that crew report out on a signal, and it goes out, and then you say, okay, do another crew report, and then do another one, and do an EVA, do another EVA, do this, do that, and for that reason, what you end up with is you get a ton of science from one mission. Like you fly around the moon, you get a ton of science from that mission, and then from there you don't have to do any more science there, and it's gone forever. Or you can do it per biome, but you only have to send like one ship to that particular station or that particular area, and then you're done. Well, they corrected that in 0.23, where you can only send back one piece of scientific data per thing. And to give you kind of a heads up on that, I'll go ahead and show you first with the crew report. So we're just going to go ahead and run a crew report. And as you can see, it's a slightly different interface. It's a slightly new interface. You have a recovery science, which is 20. That means you get 20 points of science if you take this home. Like if I lift off right now and go back to Kerbin and land, I would get 20 science. Now, because we have transmit, we have a transmission rate, transmit data 100% science value, meaning we get 20 science if we were to transmit. So we transmit that data back to the KSC, and we get 100% of that science. Now, because we get 100 and 100, what that means is if I were to transmit, well, we can actually go ahead and do this. We'll go ahead and transmit. And as you can see, a normal transmission going on. Well, eventually a normal transmission going on. Okay, so there it goes. So yep, we transmitted 20 science, all gone forever. Now we right click and we say crew report, and 0 science. We get 0 science recovered, 0 science transmitted. So even if I kept this, it'd be gone. I can't do it again. I can't do another crew report. So that's done. Done. If I were to do a crew report from another location, because right now we are in the moon's east crater biome, if we were to go to the far side crater or the midlands, we could do that again and get science from it again. But here, this is it. We're done. You cannot do this again. Now what I'm going to show you here is the mobile processing lab. Now as you see, if we right click here, it says lab status not enough crew, 0 of 2. The lab requires 2 Kerbals to run. If you do not have 2 Kerbals inside of it, you will not get your hands on anything. It just won't work. Even if your ship even if you put 1 Kerbal in there. A lot of people try like with multiple crew pods, they'll be like, oh well, you only need 1 to get it to work, and for most that's true. Even like a 3-man lander can, or a 3-man ship like this, 1 crewman in there will be enough to make it work. But as you can see, lab status not enough crew. That's an odd bug. I don't know why it didn't go away. Yeah, I don't know why that didn't go away, but still, see, not enough crew. 1 of 2. You absolutely have to have 2 crew members. So very, 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 very important that you have 2 crew members. So now we have 2 crew. Lab status operational. Now the main purpose, there are 2 purposes for the lab at this time. The main purpose is to research science that you already have and up the transmission rate. Now what that means is, let's take excuse me, let's take our seismic scanner and we're going to log seismic data. Now take a look down here. Recovery data 80.0 science. Transmit data 36 science. Now what that means is if we were to pack up right now and go home, keep the science, pack up and go home right now, we get 80 science. But if we transmit, we only get 36 science. That's 45% of the value. 45% of 80, of course, is 36. Now, if we use the mobile lab, this guy right here, because we're attached to it, as you can see, we get a new little button here. Process in lab module plus 22% transmit value. What that means is this will go from 45% to 67%. So we hit process in lab module. Now, as you can see, it takes a little bit of time, and I'll go ahead and move that up so you guys can see a little bit better. Lab analysis on seismic scan from the moon's east crater in progress, and it's at 21%. And that takes a little bit of time to tick down. We'll let it go ahead and tick down at normal speed, so we don't like move the sun, because I like to have the sun above us so we can see what we're doing. So we'll just go ahead and let that tick down a little bit. Tick, 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 tick. In case you guys are wondering about this, did we run out of power? Oops, we ran out of power. I have some RTGs on this, which should regen our power. I hope. I'm hoping that's not a problem. As far as I am aware, this does not require power, but for whatever reason, our power has cut out. Yeah, I have RTGs all over this. I have no idea why our power cut out. That is exceptionally odd. Okay, well, we'll see. I didn't check this in the VAV to see if it actually uses power or not. If it does, then it does. That's quite a possibility. It seems like it seems like it may use a lot of power, because I do have RTGs on this little guy, and I have 3 RTGs around the bottom of this, so I should be generating power regardless. So it looks like this uses a lot of power to process. My bad for thinking that it didn't. All right, so there we go. So it uses a lot of power to process. Wow, that's a lot of power. So apparently it uses a lot of power to process that stuff. That's something I did not know before. All the times I ever tested this, it was on a ship that had basically a ton of power, so that never became an issue. So it does take a lot of power to do that. But as you can see, once again, 67%. Detailed analysis, 54 science out of 80. That's actually a lot of science. So if you can't take your science home via transport, you can transmit it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to transmit this. Now this will show you something interesting when it comes to this. Now as you can see, we will recover 80 but transmit 54, which means technically there should be about 26 left over, right? Well, let's go ahead and transmit. This may take up a little bit more power, but we're gonna run a little transmitter there, so it's gonna transmit our data back. Boop 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 boop. Okay, it's gonna take a little bit of time. I will fast forward time for this one a little bit, just to make sure we can get it all running out. So 68%, 72, 76, 80, 84, 88, 92, 100. Okay, so it's all done. Now, if we go ahead and we right-click our seismic data again, and we say log seismic data. Now look at that. 41.6% transmit value 0. 0 transmit value. We can still up our transmit value by 22%, but that won't do us any good because 22% times 0 is still 0. So you only get 1 transmission of the data on a vessel from a biome. What that means is, again, from the moon's east crater, we get 1 transmission of data from our seismic scanner. We get 1 transmission of data from our gravioli detector. 1 transmission of data from our goo container. So on and so forth. You get 1, and that's it. You get 1. Now you can take the remaining stuff home if you have that as an option. You can take the remaining stuff home, but you only get 1 for transmission. That's it. Now, I want to go ahead and show you guys one more thing. The other part of the lab, what the lab is used for, is goo canisters and material bays. Now, I didn't bring a material bay. It made the lander horrible. It made it really top heavy. It made it ugly. So I didn't bring a material bay, but the goo canisters and material bays work exactly the same way in conjunction with the lab. So you don't have to worry about it being different. Now, the way this works is if we right-click our goo canister and we say observe the goo, which we can do here in the moon's crater, we get 40% science for recovery, 12%, or 12, I guess 12, 30% for transmit. Now, we can, of course, up our transmit value by doing this, and of course, yeah, so yeah, it uses a ton of power to do that, but for goo canisters, you can see it's very, very quick, and it's not using up that much power, so goo canisters get processed very quickly. And now we have 18 science out of the total of 40. Now, we will transmit this 45 point value here, and we will get a little bit of a warning. Mystery Goo Containment Unit warning. Transmitting experiment will render this module inoperable. Are you sure you want to continue? Okay, and I will hit transmit data. Boop, transmit the data. And again, we're going to open up our little satellite here, and we're going to transmit our data. Done. Now, if I try, now as you can see, the goo canister remains open. It doesn't close like it used to. If we right click, nothing. If we left click, nothing. It's dead. You can't use it again. You've used it. It's done. Well, what this little guy here does is if we right click on him, clean experiments. Now we can click that, and as you can see, we get our percentage rate up. We're using electricity, but what it's doing is this is making this operable again. So we can go ahead and just clean the experiment. Done. Now, since the experiment is cleaned, what we can do is we can right click and we can again observe mystery goo. But check this out. We cannot transmit any more data. You get one transmission regardless. A lot of people think that the lab here will actually get you an additional transmission. It does not. You get one transmission. So you can transmit once, and then you can take the rest home. And it doesn't matter. You can bring a ship down, you can transmit, you can go home, you can come back, bring another ship down, and try to transmit. It won't let you. You get one transmission, and that's it. And it's really, I know I'm stressing that a lot, but people are kind of, I've been trying to show this off for a little while over on Twitch, and people keep saying, well, what if you do this? What if you do this? What if you do this? It doesn't matter how you try to work around it. You cannot spam science anymore. You get one transmission. That's it. You get the base value if you don't have a lab. You get whatever the additional value is if you do have a lab, and you use this. And this does not add value to the recovery. It's done. That's it. Now, that, of course, is how this particular lab works. That's all it does. It ups transmit value, and it cleans these experiments. That's the goo canister and the materials bay. All these other guys, as you saw when we transmitted data, they will work again. Every time you transmit, you can transmit, or well, you use them once and transmit, you can use them again and collect the data. The goo canister and the materials bay, you use them once, you transmit the data, you can't use them again unless you have a lab to clean them. And of course, 2 Kerbals to run the lab. So if you were to take a rover, say, to Duna, and you want to transmit your data, that's fine. And then you want to rove to another biome. Right now, of course, Duna doesn't have additional biomes, but you want to rove to another biome and transmit data from there, that's fine. You can do that with these ones. But if you were to try to do that with a goo canister, you couldn't. You can only transmit from one biome with that goo canister, and then you'd have to reset it with a material, or with a lab here. It may sound really confusing. It's a lot easier when you guys are working it out, but I do know that a few people will be like, how does this work? What's going on? I don't want to take this into space and not have it work. That's how these work. That's how this system works. It cleans these out and lets you use them multiple times, but you can only transmit from each biome once. And because of that, I am going to show you guys a little bit of a trick on how you can not spam science, but how you can acquire a lot of science in a very short period of time, and or at least technically a short period of time, as long as the place that you're landing has multiple biomes. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut here really quick. We're gonna cut to the other vessel. I have another vessel over on Minmus, which has just had biomes added to it in 0.23. So now it's Kerbin, the moon, and Minmus all have individual biomes. I think Minmus has like 9 or 10 biomes, which is a lot. But we're going to cut over to Minmus, where Jebediah is currently waiting on us in order to show us how to acquire a ton of science from a very short, from one trip. And again, it's not the same as spamming science. You can't just spam science because you only get one transmission. But it's a way to get a lot of science off of one mission, one actual full-on mission with landing and everything else on another planetary body. So I will see you guys over there on Minmus. Alright everybody, here we are over on Minmus. As you can see, we are on a flat area of Minmus. As a matter of fact, this place now has a name, and if we do our crew report, it will tell us. This is the Greater Flats biome of Minmus. Now, as you can see, I just did our crew report, and the crew report gives us 25 recovery, 25 transmit, so that's 100%. And of course, as you guys know, not everything gives you 100%. So what we can do is we can keep this data. This is really awesome. I hope you guys like this. We can keep this data. I'm having a lot of trouble with my right click for whatever reason. Now, Jebediah can EVA, and we'll just have him drop down onto the planet and do some stuff. Now, what he's going to do is he's going to go ahead and he's going to take a soil sample, right? So we're going to go ahead and say, take a soil sample. And he's going to take a soil sample of Minmus greater flats. Now, for a return on this, as you can see, it's 150 science for a return and 37.5 for transmit. And we don't have a lab module, so we can never get any more than 25%. But we're going to keep that. And then we're going to say we need an EVA report. And again, we have an EVA report from Minmus's greater flats. And of course, that's another 40/40 at 100%. But we're not going to transmit that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our little pod. Ooh. Actually, we're not going to go back to our pod. What we're going to do is we're going to head over to our rover, because I brought a rover with us, everybody. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, a rover. Yeah, rovers aren't that great. Why'd you bring a rover? Rovers are useless. Well, you might think that, except for this. We can't take a barometric pressure scan because there is no atmosphere, but we can take a graviola detection. So we're going to do a graviola detection. So again, gravity scan from Minmus greater flats. And remember, this is really important right here. Where you're taking these scans is actually fairly important. So recovery is 100, transmit is 40. We're going to keep that. We're going to go ahead and go back here to our temperature scanner. I think it's right here. Yep. And we're going to log our temperature, and it's 40 and 20, and we're going to keep that. And then we're also going to go over here to our seismic accelerometer. We're going to log that, and we're going to keep that. And I'm not going to go over all the numbers or read off all the stuff. Now, we've just done all that, right? And you think to yourself, okay, well, we did all that, KB. What's that got to do with anything? Well, this right here. Oop, well, if you don't bump it with your face, Jebediah, come on, buddy. This is a little bit tough on Minmus, but Minmus has the closest biomes, and this is one of the best places to do this at. So our accelerometer has data, so we're going to take it. So now we've acquired the seismic scan from Minmus greater flats. And then, of course, we're going to do this again and again and again. We're going to take the data from our thermometer, and then we're going to head to the front of the vessel here, and we're going to take the graviola detection data from here, or we will as soon as Jebediah gets close enough. We're going to take the data from there, and there it is. All items have been stored. So we've just acquired all the science from our rover, and now what we're going to do is we're going to head back over to our lander, and it's probably easier to do it like this. We're going to head back over to our lander really quick and grab hold, and then we don't even have to get inside. We don't have to get inside to do this. What we can do is we can right click, and as you can see, there's one data stored already, and we can take that out, and we have 5 data in our pocket, and we can put that in. So I'm actually going to take the data out. Boop. And it says crew report from Minmus greater flats added. So we actually have our crew report. And then I think there's another one in there. Yep, nothing to collect. So nothing to collect. It was just a bug in the heads-up display. So that's 6 units of data. We're going to store all that. Boom, look at that. And can we store another one? Nothing to store. Alright, so all 6 data has been stored. So now we have no data on us. We have no ground stuff. We have no soil sample. We have no EVA report. We have nothing. Now, if we were to try to take another EVA report, I know you guys are like, oh, you can spam by doubling up, right? Well, we can go ahead and take another EVA report, and we're going to keep that data. And we're going to go ahead and go back to our pod, because we're gonna cheat, right? We're gonna spam. We're gonna stuff our pod full of all the same science, right? Ah, store experiment. Oh, look at that. Minmus greater flat is already stored in this module. Not all items could be stored. You cannot store. Now, this is the way this works. You cannot store the same. Oop, there you go, Jeb. You cannot store the same data in a pod or in a container, and containers include Kerbals, so you cannot store the same data. So you can't store 2 soil samples from the same biome, 2 temperature samples, 2 gravity samples, so on and so forth, from the same biome. Now, what's really great is that distinction, from the same biome, meaning that you can store data from all sorts of different places. As a matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and board our little guy here. Now, it's really hard to do this on Minmus because everything is so light here, but I'm pretty sure if I do this properly, we should be able to get somewhere fairly quick. And I think we're going to head over this way to this hill over here, and I'm hoping that won't take too long. If it takes too long, I will cut the video because it's kind of boring to watch a guy rove across the surface of Minmus at 2 meters per second. That's actually the max speed of this thing on Minmus, because as you can see, our wheels are spinning much faster than they're actually capable of going. So we're going about 3 meters per second, and I think that's about our fastest speed. I did try to land the lander close to a hill because much like you'd find on Kerbin, where Kerbin has the Kerbin shores as well as the Kerbin grasslands, and then the Kerbin water, so it was grassland shores, water, or desert shores, water, so on and so forth. Minmus has a biome called slopes, and that's basically these. Anything that's a slope next to a flat bed, a flat land, is a biome. And so what we're going to do is we're going to head over to a different biome. We're going to exit this biome because we've already taken all of our biome data that we can from the greater flats, and we're just going to meander, mosey, whichever you want to say, over here to this hill. And again, I'm hoping that it's not as far. Everything looks so much closer from the mount, or like from on high. Everything looks so much closer. But I tried to park our lander somewhere near two separate biomes so that I could demonstrate how you do this. Now remember. And I'll explain as we drive over because it looks like we're pretty close. You can get biome data from 3 different levels. You can get it at ground level, you can get it while flying over, or in the case of no atmosphere, low over, and then you can get it from high over as well. So because of that, if you were to take an EVA report from low, low, on the ground, low, and high, that's 3 EVA reports that you can store in your pod. And then you can take a soil sample, which you can then store in your pod. The crew report's the only report that isn't biome specific, meaning that if you say I'd like to take a crew report, you get 1 crew report inside your command pod. That's it. You don't have any room for any other crew reports. It's the only type of scientific data that cannot be duplicated based on the biome. But seismic data, temperature data, all that data can be duplicated based on the biome. So we have one here at the Great Flats. We're going to try to go up here over onto the slopes, and I'm going to demonstrate this as best I can. Now I'm not sure how far up the slopes we have to go to get to the biome, but we're going to see if we can do it pretty low. If of course we can't, I will go and I will cut, and we will go as far as we can. I guess we can kick on our lights. We have these really bright lights. We have Jebediah's light, of course, and then we have the front of the rover. I guess we can turn that light off and just use Jebediah's headlamp. The original design of this rover was not meant to have a driver on it, but because I figured I could also show the soil sample, I wanted to make sure we had a yeah, Jebediah going up on 1 wheel. What a boss, man. That's actually, of course, the okay. Yeah, it's tough to control this on Minmus. It's a little tough. It's a little scary. It can be a little bit scary. We have a little bit of an issue here. Let's go ahead and pull. We can use our torque to kind of keep us stable. All right, now we don't even have to get off the rover to test this either. We can test our ability to acquire data right here on, well, sort of. Let's go ahead and do a EVA report. Okay, we're still on the greater flats, unfortunately. So that's going to be a bit of a problem. And again, on Minmus, this is a very, very, very tough thing to do. Mostly because of the low gravity. There is one way you can do this, which is it's a lot hard. Well, okay, it depends on your skill level. I'll say that there's another way you can do this that gives you the option of doing it in a slightly different manner. And what that is you can keep your ship, this little ship, whatever you're flying, your lander, in low orbit, low polar orbit, north to south, around Minmus, and then you can EVA down to the planet, collect a ground sample and an EVA report, and then fly back up to the ship. Now that gives you a lot of science. Now, 9 biomes by about 120 points per biome for a soil sample. That's a lot of points. That's like over 1,000 points of science just for doing that. But it takes a lot of skill and a lot of time to pull off. Plus, without a rover, you don't get the addition of these parts. Now, as you guys may already know, a lot of these parts are not available early in the tech tree. I edited the persistence file so I can show you how this is done, how biomes, basically biome trolling, I guess you can call it, or biome swapping is done. You won't have all these parts when you go to Minmus. You will have a lot less parts when you go to Minmus, but this is something you can do if you have a Kerbal. Again, that's why EVAing is really your biggest option for Minmus early on. If you want to spam science, if your goal is, of course, to spam science, this hill is so steep. This is still greater flats. I wonder if we cannot make it to the slopes, unfortunately. That's going to be a bit of an issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut here really quick. Now that we're sliding backwards, I'm going to cut here really quick. And I think what I'll do is I will find a slopey area. I will find a place that's considered the slopes. And then I will show you guys how this works. So I will see you guys in just a moment. Alright, everybody. I did have to go about 2.3 kilometers away from the collector, as I called the ship, for this particular Let's Learn. The reason why is because I got to about here, which isn't too far. I was actually heading over this way to find the slopes, but I did bump into something different, which is if we do an EVA report, we get EVA report from Minmus's Midlands, which is great. So we are going to keep the Midlands data, and of course we don't even have to get out of the seat for this, which is awesome. So we're going to take a surface sample from the Midlands here, and we're going to grab that. We're going to keep that data. Actually, if you take a look at that, I need to hit my brakes really quick. 1 second. Let's go ahead and put those on. Now, if we take a look at our, if we take a look at our surface sample here, and we will review our sample. Look at that. Look at the difference here. 150 for recovery, 37.5 for transmit. That is a huge difference in the amount of science that you get between taking it home and transmitting it out. And it's really interesting that we can go from biome to biome to do that. So we're going to keep that. Now the only problem here is if we log our gravioli data, which we're going to 100 of that, you can't take it, unfortunately, while you're still on board the vessel. So you do have to log it, and then unfortunately, in order to acquire it, you do have to get off the vehicle and words. You have to get off the vehicle and then take the data. Now the only reason I think that you'd want to do that is if you think that you're going to hit a biome on the way back, because you have to go back to store your data. If the only reason you'd want to get off and take the data off of here is so that you could reacquire data in the new biome from here, but then you couldn't get a soil sample or an EVA report because you'd already have them. So it's really up to you how you'd want to run that, how you'd want to go all the way back to the ship, like mark the location on your map, be like, okay, there's a new biome here. Go back to your ship, dump everything, then come back so you can get a soil sample and an EVA report. Or you'd always be like a soil sample and EVA report down, because then you could come back through, get the soil sample EVA report, but then go on to another biome and get all the other data. So it depends on how you'd want to do that. Now, I'm not going to make you guys watch me drive 2.3 kilometers back to the ship, but I do want to show you how this works when you stuff back inside your ship. So I will see you guys when we are back at the ship. So I'll see you there. Alright everybody, here we are back at the lander. Now we're going to do the same thing that we did before. I need to turn this off because, or maybe not. Okay, well, it's being really weird. Anyway, we're back at the lander. It looks like we're having a little bit of issues with the rover deciding to sit down or not. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take all the data we can. We're going to take all of our data from this little guy. Let's go ahead and RCS up, and we'll just hop off of here really quick. We'll just do this. And land. Perfect. Alright, we'll take the data from here, and then we'll take the data from here as well. We'll grab that. Now what we're going to do, now I could do this to multiple biomes, but I just want to show you guys how you can just do, I just wanted to show you with 2 different biomes. So what we're going to do is, for whatever reason there we go, I'm having trouble rotating. Jeb didn't want to rotate there for a second. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate around here really quick, and we're just going to climb up here onto the lander. And then we're going to we're going to store our experiments. So again, we have 5 more experiments to store. Now we're up to 11 experiments. Sometimes it does that. It's a little bit buggy with the menu, but now we've stored 11 experiments. Now that's 2 temperature data, 2 seismic data, 2 graviolity data, 2 EVA reports, and 2 soil samples. Now what we're also going to do is we're going to board really quick. Now as you can see, we do have parachutes on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this back to Kerbin so you guys can see how much data you can get. Now, the data, this is just data from 2 different biomes. This is Midlands and Great Flats, and that's it. Now, nearby here, there's also the slopes. There's also, there's the Midlands, the slopes, the Great Flats, the lesser flats, the North Pole regions or the polar regions. So there's like 9 biomes you can find here, and you can get to all of them either via EVA or via rover. Now, we are going to leave the rover behind because it can't come back with us, and that's fine. I'm also not going to make you guys wait for us to return to Kerbin. I'm going to do that on my own, and I'll bring you guys back when we're about to land, and so you can see how much science you can get out of this. The other thing I'm going to do is on the way out, I'm going to grab a couple of EVA reports, because I did not grab the EVA reports from low and high on the way in, so I'm going to add those to our current collection of data, so we should be able to acquire about 13 to 15 points of data on the way out. So I'm going to go ahead and cut here really quick, and I will see you guys back at Kerbin so we can see exactly how much data you can get from a single run. This is not even a most efficient run, but a single run on Minmus. So I'll see you guys there. Alright everybody, here we are about to hit the water here on Kerbin. Jebediah came in just fine, everything's working perfectly. I did grab a few EVA reports. I did have a random encounter with the moon on the way through, and since I hadn't done any science around the moon, for this particular Let's Learn. I decided to grab the science on the way back. I debated a little bit, saying that, well, I was showing people how much science you can get from Minmus, but in all honesty, I was showing you how much science you can get in a single mission. So if you do happen to cross by the moon, if you happen to fly over a biome you hadn't sampled before, even if you've landed somewhere on Kerbin you've never landed before, like we just landed in the oceans, and again, I've never sampled like anything from the oceans or anything like that, so what we can do is we can roll the ship over like so, as best we can really quick. It looks like we may not be able to. Well, I was hoping that we could. We could probably do an EVA report. Let's at least try to do an EVA report. I don't think we could do a soil sample from here. So we can do a, well, it says flying over Kerbin's waters, but we can get 5.6 science from that. We will keep that. And again, we will store our sample. Look at that. We have 21 samples. 21 samples of differing types of science from both Kerbin, around the moon, around Kerbin, on Kerbin, and on Minmus, mostly from Minmus. And we're going to go and climb inside, and then we're just going to recover our vessel and see the magical numbers here. Eventually. Look at that. 1101 science. 1100.1 science from Minmus. Now that would be just a normal mission. Again, you probably wouldn't have all the same materials, the same ability to build all the things that I built when you got there. But again, if you have the ability to EVA from orbit down to the planet and back up again, you can at least get a soil sample and a EVA report from each of those, and then an EVA report above each biome, and then an EVA report if you happen to cross by the moon, an EVA report from the moon, whatever you can get from Kerbin. As you can see, we have Minmus, Minmus greater flats, blah, 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 and that's going to be all greater flats, and then all midlands here. And then as we come down, you're going to see we got EVA report while in space high over the moon. I just happened to pass by the moon, and as I passed by the moon, I got out and I did just a basic EVA report, and that gave us 24 extra science there. Got an EVA report in space high over Kerbin. I was between the moon and Kerbin, and I got out and I did an EVA report, and again, 8 science there. And then I got one above Kerbin's deserts, and then one above Kerbin shores, Kerbin waters, and then flying over Kerbin waters, on a ladder in Kerbin water, and then recovered a vessel that returned from the surface of Minmus. So all this stacked together, each one of these, it all came out to 1100 science, but each one of these all stacked together still, each one is one single scientific endeavor brought back from the planet or wherever in each biome. Each one of these is an individual biome. None of these have been spammed. None of them are different. 22 individual experiments leading up to 1100 science. So you don't have to spam science as much. People are like, oh, you can't spam science. Oh, and as more biomes are added to more planets, especially like Duna and Eve, Moho, everything, once all the moons of Jewel, once all those have been added, you can get so much science just by like dropping a rover down and just trundling along and transmitting it back if you want. And then if you want to get the rest of the science there, you can send a Kerbal, and the Kerbal can go and get the rest of the science from there and actually collect it and stick it in its pod. Like, let the rover go around collecting stuff and have him come in and pick it all up and dump it in his pod, and then bring the pod home, and that would give you tons and tons and tons of science. So it has been made harder but easier to get science. Harder overall, like harder from individual planets like Duna. You can't really get much more from Duna because it doesn't have any additional biomes, but now that you have Kerbin, Minmus, and the moon, you can get a ton of science just from those 3 by themselves if you go to all the different biomes. If you take the time to explore them more fully, build rovers, hang out, do EVAs, fly multiple missions if you want, stuff like that. So you can get tons and tons and tons of science. So yes, you cannot spam anymore. But you can still get tons of science. So, and I hope that actually helps you guys out a little bit. I know it's a little bit daunting to think that you can't spam science and, oh, everything's going to be so much harder to unlock. It really isn't. It's super, super easy to unlock stuff with the 3 biomes, or the 3 planets that have biomes, the moon, Minmus, and Kerbin. That all have biomes, and then it's just going to get easier as more biomes are added. As for the ability to only transmit once, well, you only have the ability to transmit once. That's the way things roll. You can still go and get the data, and if you take the data home, you can still go back and get more data, but again, you can't transmit that data, you can only recover it. So it's data recovery. Remember, you're trying to recover basically 100% of the data available in a biome, and to do that you can only recover 20% via radio, but then the other 80% you have to actually go and get, and you may not be able to collect 80% of it, the rest of the 80% in one go. You may have to go twice. So it does open up the ability to explore more, and you may have to spend more time on a particular planet or in a particular biome, but it doesn't really unbalance the game too much. It may, as time goes on, as you can get more science from more biomes, unbalance the game, and they may have to rebalance what it costs to purchase everything in the R&D facility, but that's later on down the road. So I hope this was very, very helpful for you all. Absolutely, absolutely. So I would like to thank you all very, 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 very much for joining me, 4KB Short, on this Let's Learn of the new science modules and the science processes here in Kerbal Space Program in 0.23. And I will see you next video.